Grover the Otter and the Centertown Clock Mystery. It's a new day in Grover the Otter's tiny town, and he is ready for another adventure. This time, it's a mystery worthy of an official, proper podcast investigation. After hearing about a successful true crime podcast, Grover decides to put his detective skills to the test and solve the missing Centertown Clock mystery. Every day, Grover goes outside and is greeted by a beautiful day and lots of happy faces in the street. The little otter puts on his headphones and searches to find something interesting to listen to. When he opens his podcasts app, Grover notices a new episode of the Kinda True Crime-ish podcast, and he immediately gets excited. Wendell the black bear told Grover about the podcast, and he was hooked from the first episode. Grover had binged all the other episodes and couldn't wait for the new one. Grover pressed play and continued on his walk. In this episode, the host, Miley the monkey, encourages her listeners to think for themselves and not take things for granted. She tells them to be more observant and look for things out of the ordinary. Miley signs off with, "Stay curious, don't believe everything you see, and remember, the truth is in the details." Just then, Grover arrived at the town square and looked up. "Oh no," Grover thought, "the Centertown clock is missing." Grover rubbed his eyes and began walking around in a panic. It's been here since he was born. "I'll get to the bottom of this mystery," he shouted. Grover realizes he now has the opportunity to start his own mystery podcast and gets to work. Grover takes out his recorder and starts asking passers-by about their theories. "I bet it was a UFO," Benny the beaver tells him. "I've seen them, you know." "Wow," Grover said. He is very surprised how the mystery is shaping up. "It's the big city folks. They're always looking for ways to shake up our beautiful town," an old elk tells Grover. Next, the otter meets a few school children and asks them about their theory. "Have you heard about Squirrely Bruce?" one of them asks. "No, I don't think I have," said Grover. "He's mean and scary and lives in the woods all by himself," said another. "I bet Squirrely Bruce took it," another kid adds, and they all agree it was him for sure. At this point, Grover has no idea what to think. He decides to go home and put together all the recordings and theories he gathered today. Grover starts his broadcast on air and presents his findings to his fans. However, instead of finding answers, Grover finds even more questions. Listeners begin to chime in with their own theories, but most of them just want to know about this shady, Squirrely Bruce fellow. After a few episodes, Grover's audience is convinced he has something to do with it. Whatever the answer, Grover will not rest until he finds it. The next day, Grover is grocery shopping and sees somebody peeking from the next aisle. The otter goes to investigate and sees a squirrel, seemingly in disguise, looking over his shoulder. "Bruce?" Grover goes closer. "Squirrely Bruce, is that you?"
"Hey, quiet down,"
Bruce quickly whispers.
"Do you want everyone to hear? It's bad enough that the whole town thinks I stole the clock. Now you want to send them my GPS location? Run it in the newspaper, why don't you?"
he squeaked. "I'm sorry, Bruce," Grover said apologetically. "So?"
So what?"
Bruce is confused. "Did you take it?" Grover asks.
"Of course not," Bruce exclaimed. "Do I look like someone who can steal a clock 1,000 times my size? I'm a squirrel. Look at me. Whoever spread that rumor must be—"
Bruce paused. Grover lowered his head. "It was me. I started the rumor," he said sadly.
"What?"
Bruce can't believe it. "But I can make it right. Why don't you come on my podcast and tell the people the truth? What do you say?" pleaded Grover.
"If that will be the end of all of this, sure, let's do it,"
Bruce said, and they head to Grover's house. On the podcast, Squirrely Bruce shares his story and tells Grover's listeners how his quiet and private life got blown up in a day. He received all kinds of mean messages, bad characters looking for him all over the forest, and he can't even go to the store to buy his favorite almond cereal for breakfast.
"I've been shacked up in my basement for weeks," he cried.
Squirrely Bruce finally cleared his name, but Grover wasn't finished. Grover still felt like there was more to this mystery. Suddenly, a call comes in. A very important guest wants to come be on his podcast. Grover welcomes the mayor of his town.
"Hey, Grover," he said. "My son tells me there's been some confusion about the disappearance of the Centertown clock. Well, I'm happy to inform you and all the other concerned citizens that the clock is well and accounted for. It needed to be taken down for some repairs and polished back to its beautiful self. Rest assured, it will be back in its place just in time for the parade. I hope you'll come down and see it for yourself."
Grover breathed a sigh of relief. Still, he can't help but feel a little silly for believing all those outlandish conspiracy theories. The Otter learned a very important lesson and made a promise to himself that his next true crime episode he will research stories and double-check his sources before he reports rumors. I'll stick to the facts next time. This is Grover, signing off.